From sea to shining sea.
Oh yes, that's beautiful. Oh yes.
Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new National album, Trouble Will Find Me. The National is an American rock band. They've been dropping full-length albums since the early 2000s, and they're relatively well known for their very gloomy musical attitude, which is topped with the very deep, moany, and somewhat understated vocals of frontman Matt Berninger. Many of the band's tracks follow some pretty slow tempos, are covered with very syrupy, slow musical accompaniment, and many of the lyrics that come through on the National's songs deal with having a difficult time dealing with personal emotions, heartbreak. It's a formula the band has stuck to pretty passionately, even as different albums of theirs have gone for slightly different musical vibes. Like the band's anonymous LP Boxer, which dropped in 2007, which had a pretty strong post-punk vibe on it, but took a much more adult and mature approach to making music in this genre. We had the band's earlier stuff as well, which did delve into a bit of Americana, alt country at some points, and their latest full-length album, before the release of this LP, High Violet, was actually so adorned in extra instrumentation, the band was pretty much in chamber pop territory at that point. And it's pretty safe to say on this new LP of the Nationals that the band is in roughly the same territory that they were on High Violet, especially with tracks like Don't Swallow the Cap on this thing, which are loaded with refined strings that swell and bounce against very gently pulsating guitars, drums, and bass. However, High Violet was an LP that I didn't really care for as much as many other people did. For one, there were not enough punchy highlights on the album that were as good as lead singles like Blood Buzz Ohio. And on top of it, the extra instrumentation that the National were laying into their songs, which was playing very slowly and drearily, really made the tracks on this LP, in my opinion, kind of impenetrable, because the guitars, bass, and drums playing under this dreary instrumentation was already slow and kind of dreary to begin with. In my opinion, it made the band's music rife with apathy and uninterest when clearly, at least to me anyway, it felt like they were going for something a little more sad and somewhat depressive. Now, even though I didn't really love High Violet and this new LP as well, sadly, maybe the National's approach to making sad music is a little bit more true to form than some other sad songs that we know of out there today that might be a little bolder in terms of instrumentation and melody. Like it or not, the National's music really draws a line between music where sadness or depression is merely the subject matter in the lyrics, and a song when sadness and depression as a feeling, as an emotion, literally permeates every single element and characteristic of the music that you're hearing. From the tempo to every piece of instrumentation, to the melody writing, through the chords, the lyrics, the vocal delivery. And while I may see that in their music at least, the National is conveying these feelings in a very personal way, as an outsider, as a listener, to me the band's music comes off consistently as sort of boring and emotionally stunted, and melodically bland. Listening to this album is like watching a guy bum around in his New York City condo in silk pajamas on a rainy day while listening to Losing My Religion on repeat through his iPod speaker dock with 3 days of stubble on his face. Now, let me say that existential crises are real and should be faced down. If you overcome them, they can become moments of personal growth, or fester if you completely ignore them. However, the crises that Trouble Will Find Me presents feel so temporary from the first chord strummed on the opening track of this LP, it doesn't even feel like there's any reason to get invested. For sure, there are moments on this LP where I feel like the band is channeling Leonard Cohen a little bit, but never do they come off as dramatic. Or maybe even a little bit of Magnetic Fields comes through, but the National is just not as quirky, though they don't really try to be as quirky, but I wouldn't say they're as clever or as melodically memorable either, or as poetic. I feel like the band can definitely be pretty engaging or dramatic when it comes to writing a hook or throwing instrumentation out there. The song Fireproof is definitely an example, but when the verses come through, Matt's vocals, the pace of his lyrics, and what they're saying as well, to me personally feel sort of unengaging with how slow they're moving. I guess in a sense I just get a little impatient waiting for something that would justify all of this There are other highlights on here in my opinion, like the song Pink Rabbits, which is a pretty solid piano ballad melodically. The song Demons is very interesting in its 7/8 time signature, puts an interesting groove out there which the band performs very nicely, so smoothly that it doesn't even become apparent that the song is in 7/8. And the song Sea of Love, which is one of the more epic songs on this LP, very passionate background vocals, rapid fire snare drums, shimmering guitars, building instrumentation, but once again on this LP, all of these very pretty colors and pretty pieces of instrumentation, pretty individually meld together and blend into a uniformly unappealing and uninspiring. It's hard for me to just dive into these things and say, hey, this is great, this is great, this is great, because I don't really care for the National's music on this record simply based on its premise. All of these ideas, which may be great on paper, are filtered through this very syrupy, slow, no justification lethargy lens that just doesn't really appeal to me. This album, in my opinion, is just well-dressed listlessness. Overall, I'm really sort of feeling a light to decent 4 on this record. If you've given it a listen, what did you think of it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? What do you think I should review next? And that's it. This review is my opinion. If you don't like it, here's a straw. I want to give a shout out to Austin for being a cool bro, Kieran Leonard for being an even cooler bro. I want to give a shout out to Kanye for not sounding like Death Grips, and, of course, Justin Bieber. Don't worry, Cal takes you seriously.
Cal's a believer through and through.
Only the strong subscribe. All mistakes were intentional. Anthony Fantano, The National. Trouble will find me forever.